Being that it was a year since the experience happened yesterday, I did one of my really deep meditations that I seldomly do anymore because it started getting spooky for a while. But then it was just so out there, things that people aren't ready to understand, and they're going on in my head. So, like, understanding what unspeakable things are is something that's hard to explain or even hard to contain. But with that being said, last night I definitely make what I made universal headway. Like, I truly feel that not only because this world isn't what we call things words, an illusion or a game or a simulation. But I mean, you can compare it to all things. This world is all things. So any comparison you give it is right, but it's also not all inclusive. There's stuff missing. There's unseen and unthinkable things that you just can't do or say yet or process. It's just too much. But within the first 5-6 months of last year, after that happened, not say last year, just this course of a year, it was a long period of time where I did a lot of deep spiritual, different religions, different spiritual practice, different things, just so I could try each kind of thing, because I don't need those vehicles to be connected, but those vehicles do help get you in that altered state, in that mind state that's free of all the stuff going on in your head because you're living your normal life. And your normal life is the distraction. That's the weird thing, is that your normal everyday life is the distraction. So, yesterday's Universal Headway, I figured since it was a year, I wanted to really, really concentrate on doing like a deep meditation. And along with the task of feeling that I'm here to save the physical world, which isn't a task because it's already done. I'm already in that reality. It's just I'm appearing to people in their realities that they see in this day and age. I'm living in mine, and I'm watching everybody change for the better. But at the same time, in their physical realities, I'm seeing them the way they want me to see them. It's pretty odd to say it like that. But anyway, the other more important, almost seemingly impossible task is to try to figure out where God came from. Well, we haven't figured that out. And when I say God, you know what I mean. The word we gave God, like the thing that we call God, that super everything, had to have started from something. And that's what it wants to know. But at the same time, it's not like these words even matter. Like, it's not like it doesn't care. It does care, of course, but it doesn't need to know. It's just living by its own process. It's living by its own thing. Each one of us is it right now, and it's got enough on its plate, and it keeps doing more, and it's just so incredible that it just allows it to play on the field. So, what we've understood is we talked, and in a place where bodies aren't existent, in a place where you might as well be 1 billion feet tall or a microscopic dot. Either way, we were in this space of vast, empty fullness. It was just so, the air was like breathing the best scent and the most wonderful flavor at the same time. And it was silent talking. But it was the loudest silence ever, because it all was exactly understandable. It was, anyway, so during the conversation, it was more like feeling that I know what oneness feels like. I know what it feels like to have been the beginning of time. And with that being said, it doesn't matter if I show anyone, if I tell anyone, if I prove it to anyone, because it's just my experience. And whether they believe it or not, that's really not important. As amazing as it is, it's not important at all. Nobody else needs to know that, because that's not going to help them. They'll experience that when they experience that, and that's totally fine. But since I've felt that oneness and I keep coming back to be Dan. Like, I could just leave my body and not come back. And I wouldn't want to do that because I'm here and I can see what this will be in a time-space continuum sense, in a physical world that can really happen. So that's why I want to do it. Well, God itself has that same thing going on at all times. And we would say, well, there's no possible way that it could make a decision that's like universal, multiversal, omniversal, like that it decides at that moment that something can happen and anything can happen. And there has been an existence where all physical things, all, forms of that you can see that aren't solid, like vapors, everything just like a TV when you turn it off down into a little dot and it disappeared back into nothing, and then it started again. And it's done that thousands and thousands and thousands of gagillions of times, but differently in every expression's experience. So that's happening right now. It's all happening right now. It's starting over and over and over and over and over. And every step you're taking, you're going right and then left. You're doing everything that you could possibly do right now at all times, but you're only experiencing it from your physical masses experience. When you finally transcend the physical experience, you understand the spiritual experience, the astral travel, that kind of thing. And there's more than that, but most and almost all beings who get to that get stuck there because it's amazing or it's terrifying. And one of the two, it gets you stuck, usually. But somehow, some way, there's many who have made it past that, and those are the ones that are the gurus or the, whatever, the prophets, the ones that we tell stories about. But they also, almost every single one of them, got caught in the dogma of their environment at the time. Whether their place in the world, whether their location that they're at, anything. Those things happened so that we could put little spots out there for us to pinpoint things on the time map. And we could all put it together. And it's happening right now. It's happening right now. And everyone knows it. Everyone knows that things started changing years ago, and they started changing. Well, and I don't want to sound stupid, but I did that. I did all those things, and I experienced them. And that's what blows my mind about it, is because I watched them as Dan, and then experienced what it was like to have set those things in action, but from a timelessness sense. And see, that's too much to try to explain. So what we have come up with is that God may never be explained because the words that explain it are a different dimensional, like say how my experience in a physical sense is my experience in a physical sense, and your experience is your experience in a physical sense. Same thing in astral body. You have a separation in some sort, like an ideal separation, like the idea of separation, so that you can experience your part. Well, those are individual experiences in that body of being. When you get to that high up point, there is no other but that. So when it's off, it's almost like when we sleep and we don't know, and then we come back on, and then but since there's no time. It doesn't sleep. God doesn't sleep, of course not. But there is no explanation. Like, we are explaining the future and the past right now. So it's just going over and over and over again in this amazing thing that is expanding at a rate we wouldn't believe, and we're just slowly going about the motions as is expanding and retracting and expanding over and over and over in a timeless sense, giving all options and all possibilities. So therefore, we realized that has happened, that everything has just sort of sizzled and faded and disappeared at once. But then it started right back over again, over and over and over and over and over again, like a strobe light. Like, as far as the beam goes out, say you have a strobe light in the middle of a field and it streams out to the edges of the trees in the distance, like, as fast as that seems to look, and if you slowed it down to like really slow, We are the motions in between when the light turns on and when it hits the trees that are way in the distance. That's us. We're doing that dance in between. We're the physical expressions that are privileged enough to do it. So yesterday's meditation meant so much, and I wish I could put it into better words, but I think that was great. Honestly, I mean, I may not be the perfect literary genius, but I didn't meditate or anything before I did this. I worked all day, and I didn't have time to do it without being interrupted, and I wanted to say it because it wasn't going to go anywhere. It was right in my head, and I was really excited. I wanted to tell my mom and dad when I got back, but instead, they're watching the original Dracula, so I'm just like, okay, whatever. But they're so cool. Anyway, I didn't, center myself and get ready to, really get tuned before I talked about it, but I didn't need to because, like I said, I'm just there. I'm there. Like, the love in my heart is so full and so strong. It's just, And sometimes the love in my heart is the reason that I feel sorrow, because I wish that I could just see people at this moment being as happy as they could be, and by choice. Not by me saying or waving a magic wand, but just by choice, by them learning that their life itself is the distraction from their happiness, so they can be happy and go through their life itself with less expectancy of how it should turn out, because it's just their experience. Not saying to let it go, but with that kind of approach, knowing that you can change it with keeping a positive outlook. Not just that, but doing the right things and keeping yourself determined and disciplined. It can actually be done, and it gets easier and easier as you go. So, I don't want to go too long. 12 minutes is about enough. So, I love you guys. Peace.